the only challenge, Padmani, is that we're doing this session in the midst of a pandemic, which
Yeah.
has hit the world, you know, in a big way. It has disrupted our lives. It has disrupted the business, and yet we are now talking about the role of the leader. I guess it becomes that much more important. Don't you think so, Padmani? What is your say?
Yeah, so thank you very much, Mukesh, for including me in this webinar. And as you said, we go back a long way together. And
Mhm.
I am very, very appreciative of the efforts that you've been making in the recent past by, sort of hosting such webinars. Because
Yes,
I
darker
think
ones.
the darker ones, and they are necessary. So going back to the current situation, well, honestly, we've gone through such dramas before. We had a huge technology upheaval, the dot-com burst, the Y2K. Then we had a lot of political issues, 9/11, and many other, even national or domestic level challenges.
Sure.
Finally, we had the financial bust and layman situation and the financial downfall. So, in my mind, while I know you jokingly say that this is the mother of all, I'm taking a very
That's right. I was just going to say that. This is the
this is
mother
this
of
is
it
your
all.
favorite. Yeah, this
So
is your
you're going
favorite.
to tell us how to
So
get across this one.
yeah, so this is the mother of all.
Mm.
But I honestly believe, and when I say honestly, I normally don't lie, but I truly believe that we will prevail over this. We have the innate ability to deal with all kinds of situations. And yes, this is, as you say, mother of all. So my first suggestion to all our lovely participants, and especially the young ones, because I get very excited talking to young people. You're full of energy. You're full of the desire to take on challenges. You haven't become boring, and actually it's important that people like Mukesh and Amarjeet and his colleagues, do support each one of you in your journey ahead, because you've got a long way to go. So having said that, I think I coined like 5 C's, because the problem statement is also another C.
But before
And
you dive into the detail of it, if I may
sure, sure,
suggest,
yes,
you know, actually, I think once we have been through this and get a
yeah,
chance to look back on what the situation is, I'm
yes,
sure we'll all be richer, wiser, more knowing. And this
yes,
experience is going to be something that we will treasure and remember for a long, long time. And I'm quite sure that each of us is going to play a strong role, especially the younger, generation, the next line of leadership is going to play a very, very important role. And in doing so, I mean, we will perhaps, after it, of course, right now we're in the thick of it and we got to
sure,
negotiate our way through it. But,
yeah,
and I'm sure you're going to tell us how we're going to do that. Okay. But at the same time, when we look back on it, I'm sure this will be a lesson that we will treasure for a long time. All yours, Padmi. Yeah. What is the way to negotiate through this?
I think yeah,
We can hear you. Yeah. Please carry on.
no, yeah. No, so you've really given me a beautiful start point, Mukesh. That
Mm-hmm.
yes, we will come out far, far different than how we are today. But I
Yes.
think what I would want to commend to everybody is that to be different, to be somebody that you're not today, requires a process of reinventing.
Mm-hmm.
Now, what does reinventing yourself mean? My
Right.
first mantra is
Uh-huh.
change.
Oh,
We cannot do what we've been doing, because the situations changed, the playgrounds changed, the
right.
rules of the game have changed. And like
Right.
in the book The Art of War, Sun Tzu clearly says that when you're in a state of chaos, which is where we are today, there are two things that are inevitable: change and creativity. So
Okay.
if I have to deal with this COVID situation, my first recommendation will be, hey guys, get ready to adapt and accept change. Change isn't easy, but don't resist it. Don't fight it. It is going to be difficult. Any change process actually pushes you out of your comfort zone. And Mukesh, you and I have probably gone through zillions of such experiences in our careers. You know, whether we changed our function, whether we changed our company, whatever it is. And I'm sure a lot of our audience has also gone through this. But
Right.
now, point number one, we have no choice. We will have to change. And it's not going to be easy. It's always very painful. In fact, if I may share the story of the eagle, something that really, really always stays with me. You know it, Mukesh, right? The story of the eagle. And lots of people know it, I'm sure. But I'll just briefly repeat it.
Right.
So the eagle lives to be 70 years. But guess what? By the age of 40,
Right.
Biologically and naturally, it's physiologically, it goes through enormous changes. And when it reaches its 40th year of life, the talons become like webs. They grow cartilage between each of their talons. That means bent. So the eagle doesn't have any ability to bite or eat. And all the furs become so diminished and heavy that the body becomes so heavy that it can't fly. So now the eagle has only two choices. One, to die, because it can't survive the way it becomes. But the other is, and which is the one that the eagle chooses, is to go back to a mountain top and reinvent itself. With the beak, no matter how much pain it gets, it'll chip the beak on the mountain, on the stone, and it'll sharpen. It'll break that that little ridge that gets formed, and it'll sharpen it back to a new beak. Once it has a new beak, it'll pluck out all the cartilage and the muscle that has grown between its talons. It'll pluck it out and make the talons free. And last but not the least, it'll pluck every feather out of its body and get back a new coat of lighter feathers and fly and live another 30 years. So I'd love to leave you guys with that story.
No, that's a lovely, that's a very appropriate story that you shared with us. Actually, the message that you're saying, then I take it, is what you said, change or die. May sound very horrific, but the fact is,
yes,
if you do not change, then, and the other thing is that, of course, change is painful. So there is no gain without change. And therefore, we will have to change. And if we are going to change, we will have to negotiate some amount of pain. Let's take some kind of practical example in our workplace situation. When we go back to work, in many places we will find that some of your colleagues may not, unfortunately, be on the job that they were. And many of us, perhaps would have, companies are shedding overheads. You might be losing, God knows, 20, 30 overheads. But yet, the output needs to happen in a difficult market situation. You got to kind of produce as much at perhaps half the cost, double your kind of outcome, and through lesser resource. So that's a big change that many people will certainly need to negotiate, and that's the hard reality of today's market situation. So to that extent, let's kind of be prepared that yes, in this new situation, we will need to change, and change is here, and it's going to be there for a bit. So and of course, it's going to, we're going to get a lot of learning because of this change. So that's the first mantra. We get that message clearly. Padmini, what next? Okay, supposing we buy into
that. Thank you. You're supposing. You're still threatening me. You're still, Okay. Yeah. So the second one. Let's go to the second one. Right. The second one for me is what I did mention a little earlier, is creativity. So yes, you've got to change, but
Mm.
change to what?
Mm.
It's not change for the sake of change. It's
Mm.
not making a random change and then coming back to office and saying, well, you know what, I've changed, and so
Mm.
there's no reason for you to think about not continuing with me. No, businesses are challenged today.
Right.
Unfortunately, their business never had tolerance for charity. But going in the current situation, even if it wished to, even it's difficult days. All child businesses are challenged. There are quite a few, like you were saying, okay, very unfortunately, may not even be able to sustain. So
Mm.
it's important to become creative at this stage, and
Mhm.
creative not for the sake of being of creativity or not for the sake of doing something different, but
Mm.
please think in a manner
Mm.
where you can, like what Mukesh said, think in a manner that how can I double my income for the company, which means generate more revenue at lesser costs to the company.
Mm.
So be creative, think for the business, think for
Mm.
your organization, think for your team.
Mm.
You think of what are the different ways in which you will be able to take care of your customers, your
Mm.
stakeholders, your
Mm.
shareholders, your vendors, your
Mm.
team. So I
Mm.
do suggest that creativity is inevitable if you wish to become indispensable.
Yeah.
Just to give you an example out of my career,
Mm.
you know, I about 20 years ago when I joined the
Mhm.
BPO business and
Mm.
Jekis was
Mm.
just about starting in Gurgaon in India,
Right.
there was no company that had done voice work in BPO.
Mhm. Mm.
Amex
Yeah.
before that was doing data, but
Mm.
we were the first to bring in the large chunk of voice into India.
Yeah, that was a
So there
big
was this
paradigm. Mm.
huge,
Mm.
there was nothing. Yeah, there
Mm.
was nothing in terms of
Mm.
any manuals or SOPs or historical or empirical
Mm.
data on
Mm.
how to train people to be
Mm.
able to do voice work.
Mm. Mm.
Now,
Mm.
that is when I actually had to be creative. What did I
Yeah.
do? I got a
Mm.
Kathak teacher. I got
Oh,
the British school ex-principal, a British lady,
right.
and somebody from the National School of Drama.
Mhm.
So I put these three people together. The
Right.
National School of Drama was going to bring in the theatre and the drama of engagement. The
Okay.
English school principal was going to bring in the diction and the English language.
Mm.
And the Kathakali dancer was
Mm.
going to bring in the dance without the dance. Because when you're doing voice work, you don't have
Right.
any non-verbal communication.
Uh,
So how do you use only 20% of your communication, that is your voice and your words,
mm.
and still engage the customer?
So what
So
a
I think,
wonderful
that is,
example. What a
yeah. So
wonderful
we put
example.
all these three together and we
Mm.
created a voice and accent training, which became legendary and it still is being done in the industry for 20 years. I laugh about it today. But
Yes,
trust me, at
you
that
created
time,
that. Yeah. Mm.
it was in the midst of madness.
Mm.
Yeah.
So that's a very nice example that you give. So you need to kind of actually relearn, many ways, and you have to do it creatively. You know, a lot of us will be put to relearning in our job situations. You
True.
did it in a very nice creative way to find, which was a complete, paradigm shift, in terms of
Yes.
getting this entire BPO industry to migrate into India, and do it so well. You know, but the fact
Yes.
is that all of us will have to relearn. And I think one of the mantras that,
Yes.
if I may enlarge on what you're saying, is that
Yes.
don't
Please do.
put position and money, and position in an organization. If you want to grow as into being a very effective leader, you should chase learning. And if you are able to kind of ask yourself at the end of the day, what is that new learning that you have acquired today, then you are a better person. And even each of
Absolutely.
us has to kind of continue to sharpen that axe on a daily basis. And actually in testing times such as this, that one it has to one gets thrown into a situation, and you have to find a solution. It's like trying to
Yes.
learn to swim.
Yes.
I mean, if you don't know how to swim, and somebody one of the ways to people teach swimming is just throw the kid into the pool, and he will
Yeah.
kind of find a way to swim out of it. And
True.
that is
True.
a huge learning, in which. So therefore, I think, the message for all our people on this program is that we all need to actually learn each day, and adapt to new situations, think on your feet, okay? And this context, in this current situation, is going to actually allow us that opportunity to enlarge our learnings as never before. Yeah. Okay. So that's
So,
second mantra for you.
that's the
Is there a
second
third and
mantra.
a fourth also?
I think, but you've actually really substantiated the second one with,
Okay.
I will use the C again and say continuous learning. And that's the point
Mhm.
you're making, Mukesh, and that's the point
Right.
that I completely buy into. And I think there is never any age or time when learning starts or when learning stops. But
Yeah.
particularly for the young people, please
Mm.
don't think that your learning has stopped because you've stopped going to academic institutions.
Mm.
Your learning has to continue till you can't learn anymore, which I hope doesn't happen soon. So
Yeah.
please do continue to learn, to expand your horizons, especially in technology, because everything is changing so fast. Like we say, this is the VUCA world. We say disruption is the nature of the day. Now that's all very good to
Right.
make as slogans, but if disruption is
Mhm.
happening, then what are you doing to handle that
Mm.
disruption? Are you
Yeah.
equipping yourself with new
Yeah.
knowledge?
So if I may say, look at the disruption in terms of people doing remote working now.
Yes.
Yeah. So how do you manage people, remotely? Look at this webinar that we're doing. We're trying to impart learnings through a webinar
Yeah.
session. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I guess
So
these people
yes.
need to manage teams remotely. Yeah. So so so
Yes.
how does one manage that? Padmini, what is your kind of take on that?
Absolutely. So let me get to the third one then,
Hmm.
and that is, especially because we are working remotely,
Right.
and this is to stay. I mean, honestly speaking, I think it's actually a very good shift from a
Hmm.
very bad situation. I know
Right.
the situation is bad,
Right.
but for years, for more than
Uh,
10 years,
uh,
we as business leaders and
hmm.
HR heads were struggling to come to terms with work from home in India.
Right.
You know, overseas it's been happening for much longer, but
Hmm.
because of our cultural issues, our mindset,
Hmm.
the way we are oriented, we are
Hmm.
very, very family and very social,
Hmm.
and we
Hmm.
need to meet each other, and we need to spend time chit chatting, and we need
Hmm.
to, as a race, we are very emotional. But the fact
Hmm.
of the matter is that
Hmm.
today we don't have a choice. We
Hmm.
are working from home. Now, in
Right.
India, undoubtedly not more than about 20 to 30% are, because the rest,
Hmm.
there are technology challenges and stuff like that. But
Right.
this will only keep growing. This is not going to
Hmm.
go away.
Hmm.
And hence, I think for leaders, all our young
Hmm.
managers, what is key, and the third one that I
Hmm.
speak about, is
Hmm.
communication. You
Hmm.
now have to really, really get into a whole load of active communication,
Hmm.
because you're not meeting your customers today. Most of it is online order and delivery. Even for cards, people are going to do, like, you come from the auto industry,
Hmm.
and you deal with a lot of them,
Yeah. Yeah.
Mukesh.
Yeah.
And you were giving an example to me the other day of Mercedes, and why don't you
Yeah.
share it in
Yeah.
terms
Yeah.
of communication and the remoteness of where business has gone?
Yeah. Actually, I mean, if you look at many a business, like Mercedes is one of the existing, any auto company that, but
Yeah.
today people are hesitant to walk into a showroom and try and, get a car and engage with, a sales consultant and do a test drive. They're worried about their health.
Yes.
So actually, many car companies have now kind of reinvented how they can do contactless kind of, engagement with the customer. So which means that obviously you need to kind of be able to kind of, project, what they call virtual reality in some ways.
Yes.
People have even put on, I mean, I've happened to go to the last Auto Expo, and now that's becoming a reality. People put on a headset, and you can actually examine a car from underneath, open the engine by sitting inside, and it's so real
Yes.
that you actually, stretch out your hands thinking you want to touch something is as real as
Yes.
that. But that's
Ah,
technology.
yes.
People are trying to use technology which is not available, and you are not able to, your constraints of people not being able to go there.
Yes.
So people have to relearn. I mean, the sales consultant needs to relearn these technologies so that he's able to kind of, showcase the product in a manner which will become appealing to the customer in the new
Yes.
context.
Yes.
So many industries have shifted completely. They're learning. I can name one other. And there is this example where Mr. Mukesh Ambani has collected a lot of investment. And as we are all aware, Facebook has made a sizable investment in the Geo platform. Why?
Yes.
Because he can visualize the change in the manner in which business is going to get conducted. A retailer doesn't need to be necessarily serviced by a salesperson going door
Yes.
to door, cutting a bill, and actually, giving a delivery of a supply. He can place an online order, which will be kind of delivered to him. He can make payment via Geo Money app. you know, Geo can actually drive customers to the retail outlet because they have, 30 crore customers who are Geo, they use the Geo, phone, and they can be
True.
given coupons and attractions to walk into a particular outlet. But the manner in which, in the method, and this, epidemic is going to kind of bring speed. These changes were happening, but this epidemic is going to precipitate the change
Yes.
to happen
Yes.
much faster. Previously changes would happen over a period of time, but now it's
Yes.
happening faster.
Yes.
It's like using the internet or webinar or using plastic money. People are kind of those transactions are happening more and more. People are hesitant to take a paper note.
Yes.
So that's change for you,
And
and the
and hence,
communication that needs to go with it.
that's right. That's why,
Yeah.
hence, as you are making these changes, like Mukesh is saying, and making them at a speed much faster than earlier, as technology is, as there's so much of creativity coming in because of safety reasons, security reasons, monetary reasons.
Yeah, I think we are lost.
Communication is
Yeah, we
extremely important
missed that. Fatmi, would
because,
you like to
you
just
know,
repeat that? Hmm.
sorry.
We missed the connect.
Yeah,
Would you
yeah, yeah.
just
So I'm saying, therefore, Mukesh, in my mind, maybe you need to over communicate, but you have to be in touch, especially work from home. You have to be in touch with your team members. You have to be in touch with your customers when you're not meeting anymore, but going via through technology, like you beautifully explained in the example. Through the community people, with your community people. So overdo communication, but don't underdo it, because otherwise, you might be doing a lot of good things, but if your management doesn't know that you're doing that, or if your team does not really, they can't see you, so they have to be told by you of what are the things that you are doing every day, and win their confidence. And please also, in the reverse, tell them what they need to achieve that day. When you are meeting in person and you're within four walls, a lot gets taken care of without even our realizing it. But when we are not meeting each other, it will be very unfair if 6 months later you were to tell your team members that they did not perform the way you wished them to. You won't be able to do a recourse and recovery. So, right, I would say, please over communicate if required.
Yeah.
Please communicate with everybody in your, in
The
your
point about
range of
communication is well taken.
influence.
I think that's
Yeah.
well taken.
So going forward,
Yeah.
I would also like to, and I was hearing this in what you were saying, and I said you've already hit it. I think the fourth thing that I'd like to bring to light is taking on challenges. So you said changes are happening like never before, at the speed of lightning. New things are getting thrown up in the air, and you'll have to, take those risks, take those challenges. The more, as a leader, this is the time, according to me, when the best in class from the mediocre will get differentiated, and the mediocre will get left behind. We don't have a choice, because after all, companies are going to look at their P&Ls and their OPEX very, very sharply.
Yeah, but
So it's about taking challenges with a lot of courage, a lot of optimism and positivity,
Here.
and creativity, and doing your best
But
is
Padmini, if I
I
may,
think,
if I may, if I
take
may say,
challenges on. In the sense, I remember, yeah,
Hmm.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah, if I
yeah,
may say, you see, when you talk about creativity and taking challenges, there's always an element of risk involved with this. No? And so to the
yes,
question is
yes,
that, are we all prepared to take that risk? See,
yes,
because unfortunately, what happens is that we all get a little defensive that if what if things go wrong?
yes,
And that's quite kind of holds a lot of people back from kind of taking a stance or a position in doing a creative out of box kind of solution, which could go
yes,
wrong. But
yes,
I think the message that we need to give to our young, our leaders here is that, listen, each failure is going to teach you to get better in what you are. So don't
yes,
hesitate from taking that risk. I mean, it's okay. I mean, best of us take decisions and some of them go wrong. Of course,
yes,
you need to be kind of, evaluate the risk that you're taking. You
sure,
need to be
sure,
careful, I mean,
sure,
calculated what you're doing. But at the same time, do not be so scared to take a decision that you take no decision, because that is
correct,
more risky than actually taking a decision, because that decision can actually help you to, I mean, overcome, and actually it'll be a huge learning experience for you and for the organization. Uh,
yes.
so we need to take some creative solutions like you're saying, but uh, don't worry about failure so much. Okay, you will fail, but each time you fail, you will come back stronger and better. Yes, Padmi.
I totally agree. I
Yeah.
totally agree. If you look at all the great leaders today in the industries,
Mm.
and one of them is iconic. I mean, unfortunately not there, but take Steve Jobs, take Apple. You
Absolutely.
know, who doesn't know Apple today? But the fact of the matter is that that
Mm.
person took the risk of
Mm.
putting a Mac together
Mm.
in a day and time when computers were only used by technology experts.
Right.
And he was sitting there in the
Mm.
small little, garage,
Mm.
trying to put together a computer that could be
Mm.
used by people like you and me, non-tech
Mm.
people, people
Mm.
who they were like very basic in our intelligence, but
Mm.
would enjoy using it. He said,
Mm.
"Can he give us the joy of using a computer?"
Mm. Mm.
You know.
Right.
Now, at that time, everybody rubbished him off. We all know that. I mean, we know of him, and I'm therefore using an example of which everybody knows of. But the fact is that
Mm.
he could create something where
Mm.
others would not have, were not even wanting to go.
Mm. Yeah.
In my
No,
life, for example, I would want to share an example.
uh,
Twice that's happened. Once in
mm.
my early days in the
Mm.
hotels, I was
Mm.
called by my boss and I was
Mm.
told that Miss Mishra,
Mm.
we are going to be opening a property in Gir Forest, so
Mhm.
I'd like you to go and handle it. You know.
Okay.
So now I've always, I mean, I've lived my life in Delhi. Now I
Mm.
do live in Bombay, but
Mm.
as a Delhiite,
Mm.
I actually, like, Gir was like a foreign land for me. I didn't even know exactly where it was.
Mm. Mm.
Then first it was a discovery on the map to see where is
Mm.
Gir.
Mm.
In those days, I had to use three modes of transportation: a flight
Mm.
from Delhi to Ahmedabad, a night
Mm.
train from Ahmedabad to Junagadh, and then a
Yeah.
60-kilometer drive from Junagadh to Sasangir.
Okay.
Besides using a
To meet
boat,
the tiger.
I did everything. Yeah, to meet the
Okay.
lion, the
A
Asiatic
lion.
lion.
Sorry. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So, but I probably had a blast of a time by taking on
Mm.
that challenge. I could
Mm.
have really said, oh no, I can't go to Gir. Oh, poor me. I could have used the gender thing, which I'm totally against.
Mm.
And if there are any women in the audience,
They
we won't
are.
discuss
I
it.
can see.
you
Quite
know,
a few.
so
Yeah.
uh, everybody's an equal, and
Mm.
everybody needs to take the same challenges and take the same risks. And trust me, I had a lovely time in Gir. I was there for 6 months. I
Uh,
worked as much as I could. I put up what I thought was the best I could. The next time, a very, very kind and considerate and trusting boss gave me the assignment to go to Bucharest in Romania to set up an office.
Right.
The whole drill again. I didn't know where Bucharest was. I didn't know, how to get there. But again, I had probably such a learning experience. So I do agree with you, Mukesh, that you've got to take a risk. You may fail, you may succeed, but you learn a lot. You know what I mean? So you have to take challenges.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. I can read some comments in the kind of chat box. Some of them are a little sharp, but then there's, why I'd be happy to take on some of them.
Sure.
I mean, people are talking about, being righteous, and the question is that, some organizations have willfully defaulted and kind of, have not been fair to their employees.
Yes.
There are always certain bad apples. And this bad apple is as part of society. Okay?
Yes.
So long as you are not there as a party to support, as a leader, then you're on the right side of it. There will be people, and I'm sure each person in this, will be asked at times, to do certain things that they may not go with their grain. You've got to take a position and a stance.
Sure.
So let me just leave it at that, without trying to kind of saying that, I mean, surely, yes, people who have got hurt with this kind of issues, are nurturing or hurt, and that's why I can see certain comments. But let me only say that, listen, okay, as a leader, you need to kind of stand up for what is right. There are certain times when you are, if situations beyond you, some people take some shortcuts which are not entirely ethical and has resulted in hurt. Okay, we empathize with that, but let's not kind of carry that discussion beyond that. Okay, so I'm sorry, I kind of I had to revert to on certain comments which I won't hold myself from kind of answering.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it's yes. Let's go ahead. Let's focus on this event.
Right.
Let's focus on this webinar and what can I take away from this webinar.
Absolutely. Please carry on.
So there's very little, and that's another thing that I would want to share with them, because I'm sure a lot of you people in the audience, including Nitin, are a little younger to me, and I am not trying to slightly, and I'm not trying to.
You got me.
I never leave. There are some people who already have experienced it.
Yeah.
So the point is, I'm not here to sermonize, and I'm not trying to teach anybody a lesson. All I'm saying is, let's all be together in the webinar. Let's all focus on what value can I take away from the webinar, and leave it at that.
Yes.
So I would like to once again summarize I think our effort between Mukesh and me is to share some of our experiences, some of our learnings, which we feel you can probably put to use. It's a choice you make, and handle what you are having to deal with today. Because we're all having to deal with it in different degrees. Nobody is really getting away from this reality. So I will again say, please be open to change. Accept change. It may be painful, but agree to change. 2, please be creative. Find different ways of doing things. Make yourself indispensable to your business. 3, communicate. Communicate more. Communicate more with your family members. Communicate more with your colleagues. Communicate more with your customers. I know at times at home, if you have 2 rooms, you're trying to stay away from each other. But that's not going to help you. You've got to be together because you don't have a choice right now. Because we're all under lockdown. So please communicate.
Okay,
the last is challenges, which I mentioned.
Right.
Do you want to ask them, Mukesh, something like make it a little interactive and participative? Can you figure out maybe something around these 4 before we go to the last one?
I think that's nice. So how many people, your first one was to change. So how many of us, are comfortable with the current change environment that we're negotiating? Okay. If you're comfortable, put a why. If you're not comfortable, will you share a no? Okay. So can we see how many Ys are this thing? Oh, I
Oh,
can
I
see
got
some
a
people are.
Y.
I got a first Y. Oh, a lot of people are comfortable with the
Two.
change. Oh, well done.
Lovely.
Okay. Okay.
Lovely.
A lot of Y. I think we got great leaders here because we got a majority of the people who are feeling that they will be able to contend with this change and be better with it.
Yes.
So well done. Yeah, I think I think your message is informed. Yeah, yeah. I
I'm so
think
happy. There's
it's
just so much,
really
there's
nice.
so much positive energy here. I'm so glad to see
Absolutely.
this.
Okay, let's pick on the second one which we had, which was, would you like to just to refresh it for everyone's mind? Which is the second?
Creativity.
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 Now, creativity, if you say on a 4-point scale, so let's get a little bit more accurate, okay? If you put a
Okay.
4 on 4, which means that you are comfortable with creativity, and if it's a 2 or a 3, then it's slightly less. If you're 1 or, and then you're obviously not creative. So let's see if you're comfortable with being creative, let's see what score you'd like to give yourself. So I can see a 3.5. I can see several 4s, 3s and 4s. Wow, that's really something. Hey, hitting it, man. Oh my God. Okay, I think we've got a kind of performing organization here. I've even seen a
Yes.
5. Okay. No, but
This
that
is
is
fun.
tremendous. I mean, it actually, both these points that I think what Padmini has kind of reiterated is important in the current context.
Yeah.
Change and creativity is what's going to kind of take you there. And therefore, if you're hitting, and you're comfortable with it and operating at 3.5 or 4, well done. Okay, that's the way to go. Okay, so what's your third one, Padmini?
Communication. Let them rate, how do they consider importance of
How
communication?
important is communication? Okay, let's do the point scale again. Now, 4 is that what you think is very, very important. Or do you think it's okay what to do?
5. I saw one which is 5 plus 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 plus, and she happens to be a friend of mine.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so you're great community, 100%. Oh, well
Yeah,
done.
100%.
Great. I know we have gone over this. No, so that's very important. I think, Padmini, your point is taken across. I think the audience has
Yes.
accepted the importance of communication, especially when we are not able to meet face to face. People are going through personal tragedies. Okay, health issues can be of concern. We got elderlies in the family. So therefore, okay, you must kind of be able to kind of communicate, and that's the only way to kind of keep stay that way. Okay. Okay, I think.
So shall we go to the 5th one?
Okay,
before
yes,
I think I
please.
can see the time,
Yes.
and I guess let's go to the last one, because I'm not going to do justice to this webinar. I'm not going to do justice to this time spent if I don't talk of my 5th one, because the
Yes.
5th one is the closest to my heart, and
Which is?
that is compassion. In
Uh-huh.
simpler words, care and
Sure.
concern,
Okay.
empathy. So
Right.
businesses may shut down. Businesses, I hope, will sustain.
Right.
The world will carry on.
Right.
But young leaders, because the audience is filled with a lot of young leaders,
Yeah.
please don't forget your team members in your hurry and your flurry.
Mhm.
Nobody succeeds alone.
Right.
None of us could have made it where we got without our colleagues and our subordinates.
Mhm.
And you guys know, and if you read my little profile or whatever was shared initially, I myself started way down. I mean, I was the junior most person
Right.
in the restaurant business when I started.
Mm.
And I'm pretty pleased with the way I made it. I mean, in about 15 or 17 years, I was sitting at the senior vice president or whatever level, and I had much more responsibility, much more empowerment, but what I've never forgotten, and I also would suggest to all of you, please don't lose focus of your team. You need to really this is the time. They're worried. They're going through the same stuff that you're going through. You've got to be compassionate. You've got to be... Now, compassionate does not mean overseeing mistakes. Please don't mix up kindness with weakness. But you've got to think about them. put yourself in their shoes.
Yeah.
If you are feeling that you're at
Yeah.
risk, that your job is at risk, that whatever, like Mukesh even initially said, that you may feel actually very, very low because your colleague's lost his job or whatever it is. But the fact is that you've got to win the trust and respect of your people.
Right.
This is the time to pull your people along with you. This is not the time to drop them and run alone.
Yeah.
So
But unfortunately,
I don't want, I really, really do suggest that change, creativity, communication, challenges, but the bottom line that will sustain the world and business is, kindness, concern, and empathy. Because without people, there is nothing that can happen. So I want to close on that.
Okay,
and
if
over
I
to you,
may,
Mukesh.
if I may kind of, add to what you think. See, the fact is that, the reality is on one side, we've got to balance compassion. The other side is they are serious business realities. It may not be affordable to be as charitable as one might want to be. Let's be honest with that.
Yes,
There are
that is a
times when
reality.
you will have to shake hands, otherwise you might
Yes.
sink the entire ship together. It has happened in the past. Many organizations
Yes.
had to shake hands, So therefore, don't think that, compassion means that you will be able to be generous, in accommodating everything and everybody. Okay, there will be certain hard decisions. It will hurt. Let's be honest with it. But I may just add one or two things again. I don't know if you agree with it. I think, for a young leader in today's context, it's hard work, hard work, hard work. You have to burn both ends of the candle.
Yes.
It is impossible for you to think that, you can do a 9 to 5 and be happy. It's unlikely. 13-hour, kind of days, 14 hours of work a day. At this age, but going through tough times, okay, you got to kind of count, you got to put your shoulder to the wheel. You will be working with limited resources. So therefore, you need to kind of, there is there's no shortcut for hard work. And lastly, I think, the biggest thing that one needs to overcome in this current situation is the attitude of glass being half full or half empty.
Yes.
Very valid. You need to put stretch goals ahead of you. Surprisingly, the human being is capable of stretching and delivering beyond anybody's comprehension. It is possible to, do superhuman kind of outcomes can come out, only if you were to will it that way.
True.
So therefore, stretch yourself right now, and that's the way to go. And that's, as a young leader, you will be asked and will be put, you'll be put to test on some of these kind of commitments of yours. So hesitate not, step forth. It'll help you to learn. You will become better in what you're doing. Okay. And finally, okay, if I may just conclude with, some nice lines that I read, from a quote. It says, leader is one who knows the way, who goes the way, and who shows the way. And that is what you will need to do.
That's very nice.
Hopefully we shall all get there.